Well, good evening, Milbillie. It's a wee bit late for me. It's just after midnight here, but I'll explain where I've been tonight later on. Nice to have you back on. Sorry to hear that you're still a little bit under the weather, I believe.
Yeah, I can't get rid of this shit.
Yeah, it's not much fun. But then I suppose that comes with the territory. It's winter in Wisconsin, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
warm, so.
Yep. And the Packers didn't exactly. I don't think they did too badly. We're getting through to, in effect, the final of the. Is it the conference that they're in?
Yeah, it was the last game. Whoever wins goes to the Super Bowl.
That's right. So it's like the Super.
I didn't expect them to win at all. So
no.
What transpired is pretty much what I expected.
Yeah, I think if it had been in Green Bay, I think they would have fancied their chances, though, wouldn't they?
It probably. I don't think they would have. I think they still would have lost. It would probably been a little closer.
Yeah, was it 37-20 in the end? So that's.
Yeah. It's like they didn't start playing to the second half.
Sorry?
It's like they didn't start playing until the second half. Well, they had a lot of turnovers too, so.
Well, funny enough, I mean, Andrew's just joined us and on the chat there, and of course that was the thing about what was it? The game against, I'm going to say, the Tennessee Titans that they won in the end, but I mean, at one point they were 24-0 down, and I thought, Kansas City, they're going nowhere. Of course, I didn't realize it was just going into the second quarter, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then, of course, they ended up winning. What was it, 50-odd to?
Yeah. I picked Kansas City to win the Super Bowl.
Sorry?
I picked Kansas City to win.
Yes, quite a few people have said Kansas City. So, well, we'll just have to wait and see. So, yeah, I haven't spoke to you since there was a big the sort of big news last week was the hidden image in the Krax's videos, and I know you've got sort of questions about it that you're thinking about. I'm thinking, well, first of all, why take those videos down?
Well, as soon as Governor Evers of the board didn't approve Grumman's clemency, they were removed. And I got one final comment on my video from him. Thank you, Governor Evers, for doing the right thing.
I got the same thing actually. Yes.
From Charles Darwin.
Yes. Yeah, it must be the same message, just copied and pasted over and over again. Well, of course, do you actually think that it was Governor Evers that did that? I'm sure that it's been presented in the way that you've got this paroles board, and at the moment it's like they are intervening. I thought the whole purpose of this clemency bid was to bypass the paroles board and just speak straight to Governor Evers. So I suppose they're just going to have to keep knocking on that particular door, aren't they? Until finally.
I don't think it was ever submitted to him personally. I think the board in place handled everything, and they state right there that he meets none of the requirements.
Yeah,
it was a shot in the dark. It'd been nice if it would have worked. It'd been nice if they would have. State wouldn't have went and tried to appeal him when they're going to release him, but state's dirty.
Yep. Well, we'll just have to wait and see how they do with a second petition to.
It's not
Evers.
It's hundreds of cases throughout the state. It's just you mainly hear about this one. You got the Michael Bell case.
Yep.
He's still fighting, trying to get justice.
Yes, I haven't heard anything recently about the $50 million bullet.
Well, yeah, that Michael. Yeah.
I've not heard much about that lately. So maybe something will be forthcoming in the not too distant future.
Well, Michael Bell's father, he had a press conference, I'd say about 2 months ago, maybe
Right.
3, saying they found new evidence. I guess they found a bullet in his garage, which would completely dispute what the police say it happened.
Yes, because they're saying that that he was shot from a particular angle, aren't they? You know, and it's clear that there's no way he could have been shot from that particular angle.
Nope. It's been forensically proven that it was impossible for it to say the way it happened. And they made 2 reenactment videos trying to depict on what they say took place.
Right. I'm trying to remember back what because it was always Eric Ose that was covering that case. I remember reading testimonies. So they've tried to do a video twice. Yes. Now, do the 2 contradict one another slightly?
No, they're basically the same narrative. They just have different angles.
Right. Okay.
But the whole thing is staged. They just don't admit that they were wrong. It was an accident.
Well, yeah.
It didn't happen.
Yeah, they're just. Of course, that case would have occurred when Brad Schimmer was the AG. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, all he's wanting to do is just sweep it under the carpet, doesn't
he? Yep.
Yeah. Okay, getting back to the image in the Ken Kratz videos. I mean, as I say, I wondered at the time if a lot of people suggested it was a subliminal message. It was just a case of trying to get that image into our minds, one of Anthony Porter. But it seems strange that in a way it was so well hidden because it was a case you have to turn the brightness up.
But it was put there for a reason.
Sorry?
Somebody put it there for a reason.
Absolutely. Which raises the sort of main question about the video, which would be, as you were saying earlier.
Oh, I forgot.
Who put the video together?
Yeah, who made the video for him?
Exactly. I think that's the real big question, isn't it? I mean, we don't think it's Kratz that put the video together. I tried to do a little bit of research, finding out who did the audio for it, but the guy just sells his soundtracks. Just people just log on and they can just use that they pay an amount and they can use tracks. It's no big deal. He's let's put it this way: the guy that sells the soundtracks did not recognize the name Ken Kratz.
What a surprise!
Yes, he replied with a rather interesting Freudian slip. He wrote, "I don't know what Ken Kratz is." He didn't say, "I don't know who Ken Kratz is." He said, "I don't know what Ken Kratz is."
Should have put Ken Kratz, aka Charles.
Yeah. Well, yes. Okay, so that was kind of one of the interesting items last week. Now I know that obviously ongoing you've been listening to the various calls, and I think there were 1 or 2 that were of particular interest, but I believe you were saying that it was kind of difficult to pick out the audio.
Yeah, that was the Kayla interview. And you could just hear her saying that the interviewer at home, but you can hear her saying the officers kept telling her she needs to remember, and they're talking about something that occurred either the day of the party where she talks to Brendan, Or you can also hear her talking about the 31st. Because she was supposed to go over there for the bonfire they're going to have, but for some reason, Candy did not let her partake in the event.
That was Kayla.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like Brendan made plans with Travis Fabian for him to come. It seems like everybody just ditched him on the 31st.
I mean, that can happen, I suppose. I don't think that's anything that
You
was sinister going on.
hear him and Blaine saying that as they're walking from the school bus to their house, they're talking about who's going to get to use the phone first, who's going to get to use the computer first, because they can't do both at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing is that, if you're burning a body, that is going to create interest. That is going to create a smell that's going to linger, and everybody is going to then be interested in what the hell's going on. Anyway,
but we got the new jail calls from it's like over 1,300 off, all the way from November of 2005 to January of 2006 into January of 2007.
Wow, 1,300, did you say?
In all, from when he's incarcerated to there's 2 from March of 2007, 8 between January 1st and the 10th of 2007, and then it's all of 2006 every month.
Right. And are you also, I think you were saying that you're looking to get hold of a lot of the dispatch calls?
Well, I have all that we are been given. I've been re-listening to them. The transmission calls, because those are the dispatch calls. The dispatcher calls really ain't that important. They are to a certain extent, but the officers' transmissions between them, where they're always talking on code.
Right. Talking of one of the officers involved in that, I believe it was Guy Jacobs.
Yeah,
Dennis Jacobs. He up until 2 days ago, I believe he was just 56 years old, retired.
Yep.
And he's passed away.
Yep. Don't know why. All I know is that he was taken to the hospital and he's no longer with us.
And he is the one that we hear iconically saying, do we have a body yet?
Is Stephen Avery in custody?
Is Stephen Avery in custody? That's the same Dennis Jacobs, yeah?
Dennis Jacobs is the one that does the 27 on Teresa Hallbach on the 3rd. He's the one that's calling the SBC for phone records. I mean, definitely involved.
Have you noticed some of the chat, how you get these stupid guilters that just make themselves look so ridiculous?
Yeah, I just ignore it.
It's just laughable, because the bottom line is it's so annoying to them that we are still talking about this case, and it really does bug them that we're still here, we haven't gone anywhere. And I will get on shortly to what I've been up to this evening. Something that's a bit of a bugbear for a few people. How many RAV4s are there?
Well, Teresa definitely had one.
Yes.
The question is the one that we're finding on Avery's actually hers? I have too many questions to say definitively that it is or isn't her car.
That's the problem, isn't it? We just, how do we know? Apparently here's one thing: the way that the that the car was parked makes it difficult to get out of, or virtually impossible to get out of the driver's side. Is that right?
Well, depends how big you are.
Because I'm sure I've seen somewhere there's mention of the fact that there is damage to one side of the car. And it's one side of the car that we never ever get to see in any photographs.
Select for few, depending if the car is green or blue. Like the photos we see from it sitting outside. Well, to change subject, I was listening to the November 6th transmissions,
Sure.
and they're requesting officer from Manitowoc to follow the trailer to Calumet or Madison to the crime lab.
Yeah.
And they're asking, do we have a lock on that trailer to secure it? And they're like, nope, we don't. No, when they're transporting the barrels. They state in queso that they had to stop for some apparent reason because the trailer was not distributed properly. But they also claim that they only stopped for 1 or 2 minutes. Now, if the trailer's wobbly, you'd have to redistribute the stuff inside the trailer for it to get the weight distribution correctly. So, because if you pack the trailer wrong, it could be deadly.
So there's at least one RAV4, but there could be others.
Yeah, one blue, one green.
Because I mean, I've got I've still got fresh in my memory the time when Herman actually asked me. He said, "Has Kathleen Zellner been given the RAV4 for testing?"
But why would he be asking you that?
Exactly. I took it as being a very, very, very odd question, because I would have thought that he would have known. I suspected that possibly basically the DOJ, they don't want to give him too much information because he's likely to shoot himself in the foot with it. But I thought, well, maybe they would. Maybe he was just trying to sound out what I knew. Maybe it was a kind of like a control question. Did I, was I trying to make facts up about the case, or was I, being genuine? And therefore, he asked me. I said, I don't know. As far as I know, they've not. I said, I know that from what I've heard, she's got a replica. She's got one that she's working on, because she actually says in Making a Murderer #2, she says the first thing I had to do, the very first thing I did, was to go and get an identical RAV4 so that I could replicate everything that had supposedly happened.
Why didn't she get the same color car? Of either of them, either the dark green one that Karen Hallbach reports or the bluish mystic one. Her car that she gets, the car that's on Avery's, and the car we see in that picture at the beer park, 3 different colors.
Yeah, I can imagine though that now you see that particular car, that model of RAV4, which I believe is basically the sort of first generation of RAV4.
Mm-hmm.
I'd imagine it's getting rarer now.
Well, before that, they stopped making. Well, they still make them. But they've altered them 2 or 3 times. They've redesigned, remodeled them. Mm-hmm.
So maybe just getting that color was difficult.
When you go through and read all the search warrants they have issued, there's like 122 pages. There's multiple times the RAV goes from a 99 to a 98 to a 97, and the last page, it's now a 1994. Now these are search warrants. how are they making typos?
Mhm.
If it's a 99, how do you accidentally hit 98, 97, 94?
What would be the? I'm still trying to get my head around. Why would you need a replica car, and presumably switch stuff from one car to the other? Is that right? Is that what?
Well, I haven't been able to prove it's just a theory. I try to stay away from theories because they
Sure.
would get you nowhere. But I've always believed that her car was burned.
Right.
And if they found her car burned, they're not going to be able to plant it.
Yeah.
Without a tow truck. They're not going to be able to get a tow truck on neighbor's property with them being home.
Hmm.
There's just them writing Xander Road on that for sale sign.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's pretty clear. That was that in effect was the initial plan before they realised that he'd had a bonfire.
And then 2004, there's a fire on Xander Road involving Barb's Blazer. Wasn't fully investigated. Alibis were not confirmed, if not completely ignored.
Hmm.
And it's just two people, Tom Yonda, Bobby Dassey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure Tom Yonda's could have been verified because he says he was at Menards. And if he was at Menards, they'd have video of him being at Menards. But Bobby Dassey says he went goose hunting with Mike O.
Mm-hmm.
They never talked to Mike O, or at least they don't report that in their report. And the follow-up officer for that was Lieutenant Bushman. And why is it still an open case on Stephen Avery's record? Just like the Penny Bernstein case still open, but the Halbach case is closed.
Mm.
I don't know if they're just clerical errors, but no. It's an officer printout from the Larry Ledvina. He's now the assistant deputy sheriff.
And
Herman has retired.
oh yeah. Yeah, he retired at the beginning of just over a year ago. He retired. Again, this is pure speculation, but something that people have been going on about, wondering about. You know, if the bones have been handed back, do we know that the car is safe?
Well, I'm pretty sure evidence has been lost or destroyed.
Despite the, obviously, a preservation order meant nothing to them back in 2010 when Steve was exhausting all of his appeals, and
Yep.
it seemed as if he wouldn't be going any further with the case.
It's like they're banking on him to run out of his appeal process, and they just all go away.
Yes. Back in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Just shortly after that, what do? They give the bones back.
Yep. Well, I think they actually gave them back between just before the Supreme, the Wisconsin Supreme Court refused even to consider Steve's sort of appeal, because I think by then he'd already ran out of state-appointed lawyers.
He's doing it all by himself, working on his own case.
Yep. Okay. Where was I today? This evening I was in Edinburgh to see Mr. Beauty. And I've made one or two notes of some of the things that he went through. It was well worth going along. The presentation obviously was took us from the absolute beginnings to the latest stage, and at the end, you get to ask questions which you've written down, and somebody reads them out. And mine was first. And I wanted to know, I wanted Jerry to expand a little bit. Don't know if you know that in his book, Illusion of Justice, he talks about the fact that he very nearly became Brendan's lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard about that?
Yes.
Apparently, and he did expand on it. And he said that he was sat with, of all people, he was sat with Dean Strand, and they had spent about an hour discussing the case when there was a phone call came through, asking, and it was from somebody in Brendan's family to say that Brendan's been arrested, and we're needing a lawyer. And Dean and Jerry's immediate thought was, well, Dean, you carry on representing Steve. I'll represent Brendan. But apparently that would have generated a conflict of interest.
Yeah, bullshit.
Because, because they'd, because they'd already started discussing Steve's case. But it makes you wonder, in the case of Brendan, okay, there's nothing you can do about that. The fact that he gave that March 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he didn't give the confession. He was made to agree with everything that they were saying.
Mm-hmm.
But it does make you wonder what, but for an hour earlier could have made a big difference.
Oh yeah.
So they went through a lot of it. He did go through quite a lot of interesting stuff. Where was it? It was at the Napier University up in Edinburgh. One of the things he pointed out was that Teresa Holbach was quite excited about it being Halloween. She was dressing up as a cowgirl. Is that right?
That's right.
And went to a party on the Saturday.
She went to a bar Friday and Saturday.
Yep, but we don't have any sort of people come forward saying that they saw her at any of these parties.
Yeah, on dispatch.
Right.
People calling the queso. Some guy says, I don't know when she went missing, but I seen her at the bar on Saturday.
Right.
And they're like, well, she went missing on Monday. He's like, okay, I just want to let you know.
Oh, okay. So, and whereabouts was she that night? Was that up in Green Bay?
No, that was closer to her house.
Right.
In
Hilbert, yeah. Okie dokie.
I don't remember the name of the bar. And the guy also states that he's an acquaintance with Teresa. He's more friends with Kelly Pitson, but he's seen her at the bar that night.
Right. Kelly is something to do with Auto Trader.
She's the one that went on the trip with Teresa.
That's right. Yes. Who's the woman that's from Auto Trader?
This happens to me every time. Dawn
Plitzker or something?
Something like that.
Yeah. Okie dokie. Another thing that he went through was the fact that what would be different had the case, instead of being back in 2005, 6, 7, what if this case was now? What if it was 2020? Well, as far as it still beggars belief that Ken Kratz was able to come up with this press conference.
Mm-hmm.
But sorry, this is more of a comparison with sort of UK and America. But not only would Ken Kratz would not have been allowed to have given such a press conference, but also journalists would have not been would have been it would have been illegal for them to have covered that press conference with the information that was being given, because it would be deemed in the UK as contempt of court.
Yeah.
Because you're polluting the jury. So that was an interesting point about the
being fed everything from law enforcement. That's why Stephen Avery gets fed up and was like, I got to tell my side of the story.
Yeah.
Nobody's listening to him. That's why he disregards what his lawyer says multiple times and calls, like what the calls that pick up in April, they start talking about the interview he gave to the Associated Press and talking about Dean's pissed off he did that and is thinking about dropping him.
Yeah. No, I must admit that was another thing that they that he did talk about, was the fact that the always when you get the publicity about these cases, the journalists always present the news in a way against the defense, that they're always having to work against the police.
Well, look at the first news reports. They say, Teresa Hallbach, a freelance photographer working for Auto Trader, had 3 stops that day, 2 of them in Manitowoc, one of them being Stephen Avery. They don't mention the other people. They don't mention George Zipperer. They just have a video of his house.
Yep.
They don't mention Craig Sipple or Stephen Smith.
Yep. Absolutely. One or two other things that he went through. I'm just going through my list here. Scott Fairgrieve, the guy that obviously is the defense expert for Dean and Jerry. Do you know how many cases he has been called to act as a witness for the defense?
No, I don't.
Once. That was it.
Wow.
That was his one and only case, where he was called as a defense witness, and that was because in every other case he's a prosecution witness. Mm-hmm. He's an expert in particularly to do with bones and cremains being found out in the open in the countryside, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but what good is an expert to come in and give testimony for something he wasn't even there that took place? He wasn't there collecting the bones. Again,
we've got Jerry saying, that him and Dean were sent thousands and thousands of photographs. And this was the other thing he said that's interesting, was that he's had conversations, been at seminars, conferences with these evidence technicians. Mm-hmm. And they all say, that rule number 1 when it comes to evidence, you don't touch it till you've photographed it thoroughly. Mm-hmm. This isn't a case of sometimes people forget.
Well,
you never ever forget.
I heard something very interesting in the November 6th transmissions too. You hear Colborn or one of the other officers asking what kind of tape does the video camera take?
Right.
8 millimeter. Then you hear Colborn requesting, we're going to need some more tapes. So what are they video recording? Do they still have it? Where it was like Manitowoc's hiding everything.
Yep. Yep, absolutely.
Well, got to hope for evidentiary hearing.
Yes, yeah. which could be fairly soon. Although the one or two people are a little bit sort of, I don't know, they're sort of half empty, glass half empty, fearing the worst, that the state is simply going to ask for another extension, which, as I was explaining to my wife on the way back, she said, well, where is the case at the moment? I said, well, we're just waiting on an evidentiary hearing that the Court of Appeals will do. She came up with this huge motion, which the judge sort of took, what was it, about 3 months to write 11 pages.
Yep.
And she said, well, how's that? I said, because she's protecting people, the local people in she's Sheboygan, but it's neighbouring county to Manitowoc.
Mm-hmm.
So they're protecting everybody there. But eventually, it will get to this evidentiary hearing. But I said, that there's the prosecution, the state have had to put new attorneys onto the case.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore their argument could be that they're going to need time to go through everything. But I said, if that's the case, then their response had better be pretty thorough.
I heard Colburn's lawsuit is scheduled for March 14th.
Well, you've just reminded me, that was another message I got from Andrew Colburn.
Mm-hmm.
And it was to do with as you were saying, the deletion, the removal of his videos. He didn't mention anything about that. He said, how is it that Andy Colburn gets his evidentiary hearing straight away, and Kathleen Zellner is still waiting on hers? You've got to wonder about that. Is that not is that not interesting? Is that not remarkable? He said, is it not remarkable how Andy Colburn has got his evidentiary hearing straight away without any questions, and Kathleen Zellner is still waiting on hers? And I said, no, it's not remarkable. Nothing about the state of Wisconsin and the corruption that goes on there is remarkable to any of us anymore. Jerry did go on about the fact that the effect of Making a Murderer on him, and how it had affected him. He said that one of the biggest surprises, if you like, was that Making a Murderer was a rarity in that it shows the defense lawyers in a good light and the prosecution in a bad light, which was quite unusual. So I put down, that the defense attorney are the good guys. He said, look, both Dean and I feel that we're not worthy of the kind of adulation that we were getting. It was quite embarrassing. But he mentioned something, and I must check this out, because he was saying that he was featured in an episode of 60 Minutes to do with a case when he was just 32 years old. And there was this picture of this really young Jerry Buting, 32-year-old. Have you ever come across that one?
No.
I mean, 60 Minutes, is that something that's been going on forever and a day?
Yeah.
What is it? It's like a weekly episode, is it? Different case each time?
I think it's on every Sunday or something.
Right, okay. Now then, what else did we get to? I've got some of the best stuff for later. Oh yeah, that was another thing he pointed out. This tube, the blood vial tube. Again, speaking with his experts, they said, so in the act of putting the blood into the tube, when you're putting the blood in, it makes a hole.
Yeah.
He said that but the actual membrane, if you like, that you put the needle into is self-sealing after that.
Yeah.
So he's still pretty much of the opinion that there definitely could have been the fact that the
the box
blood was taken out.
It was definitely tampered with.
And that was the other thing he mentioned, was the fact that by not having evidence tape on it and just sealed with a bit of, we call it sellotape, I think you call it Scotch tape. But anyway, a bit of tape, it meant that you can easily then lift it up, access it, tape it back down again.
Yep.
Okie dokie. He never mentioned about the cabinet coming into court, which would have been a question that I would have asked it had I thought about it at the time. Let's see, what else did I write? He did go on about the because it was a presentation at the as I say, at Napier University, and particularly to lawyers there. You know, there's a big law hub, as they call it. You know, I mean, the building's quite spectacular with this big conference room right in the middle of it.
Yeah,
and you've got this downstairs. You've got this huge library, and then you've got all these other rooms. But this one conference room, I think it can hold about 400 people. It certainly wasn't full, but it certainly wasn't empty. You know, there was on my reckoning, it was about half full. So, you know,
it's still huge all the way over there.
Well, you know, when you think, when you think about making a murderer, you know, fair enough. If you're a lawyer, you're probably a better chance of knowing about it. And if you're a young student, then you'll have watched it, quite possibly. I think when he did the poll of hands, I think everybody had at least watched Series 1.
Yeah.
Although I don't know that everybody had watched Series 2. So, as I say, it was good that he did go into the what the latest situation in the case is, and he did talk about the fact that him and Dean. To quote his, they are looking forward to being called at an evidentiary hearing to give evidence as far as the ineffective assistance of counsel. You know, that they're saying, you know, that's not a problem to them at all. You know, they want to do whatever they can to help. But I thought, and we didn't get the name of the person that asked the question, but it was definitely something that is really, really on my mind. And that is, he was asked, what are his thoughts on Kathleen Zellner? Well, I'll let you go first, because I can then shut up and you can tell us what your thoughts are on what Kathleen Zellner is doing, and, you know, how she's doing it.
Well, she's doing what she's supposed to do. She's not getting access to anything she requested. They're fighting her tooth and nail.
They are.
They're trying to cover up the truth.
Yep.
Because obviously they're all talking behind closed doors. The state side. The fact that you got Schimmel fought tooth and nail to keep Brendan locked up.
Yep.
And I don't know. She gets her day in court. They're done.
I would have to agree with you. I think that is their worst case scenario. You know, I think they would be better just giving up before that evidentiary hearing. But by then, if the judges have ordered an evidentiary hearing, everybody has to turn up at that evidentiary hearing. His words were, it was quite comical. He said that she is incredibly successful.
Oh, for sure.
Incredibly successful. He was saying he thinks it's something like 17 or 18. I believe it's up to 19 if Steve is the next person that she gets out, he will be number 20.
Well, the fact that she states that this is the strongest case she's had.
Yep.
At the point in the case she's at.
Yep.
Compared to other cases she's had. And she said it takes 10, 15 years for this whole process to take completion. So,
but the bit I really liked was that he said, some people, he said, in other words, not her, not him, sorry, but some people have suggested that she's a bit of a bulldog, that she's a bit abrasive, and I thought, thank you, Jerry, at last. Okay, so you add that up, right? She's a bit of a bulldog, she's abrasive, and she's incredibly successful.
One thing I would like to know.
Yeah.
I hear Dean say this all the time. There was 4 people that they suspected that could have did this to Teresa, but he never mentions their names.
Well, that was Jerry did say that obviously they presented this sealed document to Judge Willis, and obviously Bobby and Scott were 2 of the names on that.
I have an idea who the other 2 people were, but
yeah. But certainly Bobby and well, he didn't actually mention Scott Taddick. He said Brendan's future stepfather. Shall we? Because I don't want to keep you too long, mate. Because you're day off, and if you hopefully you'll soon be feeling better. Let's have a look back at some of the people that have commented, because I know that we've got 40 people have tuned in to listen to us going on about this case. So thank you very much to everybody who's done that. Let's give a quick shout out. Maybe, what happened to that? Maybe Linda is on about my haircut. I don't know. Oh, that is cool, Paul. Cool. Maybe not. I don't know. Oh, here's an interesting one. I lived down the road from Teresa Holbach at the time. So that's somebody from Manitowoc. Let's see. That's really annoying when it goes whizzing past like that. I don't know why it does it, but anyway, let's try this. Because I need to do that, and then get another one up. Let's see if we've got any particular questions. I thought I saw some. Maybe just chat. Oh, there we go. Linda is saying, when are you going to come and talk about that? Jamie Van Hoot, come on and chat with me. Yeah, well, Linda, you be careful what you wish for, Let's see, what have we got? Here's Chad. What page are you on? Andrew, like 140. Work slowed me down. That's good. Not that work has slowed you down, but you're up to page 140. And then the whole lot just. Do you ever get that? I don't suppose you do. When you go onto this chat, it just whizzes up and down.
I've never.
I just can't control it. 1 minute I'm going like a click at a time, and the next minute it's just like a slot machine. Not that I ever play slot machines.
I always used to use my OBS.
Yeah, well, I've got OBS, but I'm still waiting on the dude to show me how to do it.
I could easily show you how to do it.
I think that's, yes, probably a pretty good assessment, Andrew. It is now nearly 1 o'clock in the morning, but let's go down a bit more. What else have we got? Well, here we go. Here we go. Rule is asking, how many people live in Wisconsin?
A lot.
Seems like a few thousand. Well, it's actually bigger than Scotland. 6 million. 6 million in just that. And I think, in fact, the I think surface area as well. I think in terms of its actual size, its physical size, there are 11 states that are actually bigger than the UK. So easily bigger than Scotland. Easily bigger than Scotland. Let's see. What else have we got? Here you go. This should please you. I'm not too sure what it was to do with, but something you said must have been agreeable to Linda. So there you go. It must have been something that we were talking about. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Where is the case? It's nudging forward. Yeah, I would say definitely is. Wouldn't you?
Space.
Well, yeah. That followed by, I like this comment. Grass grows faster.
Yep.
Okie dokie.
Jail call I just listened to, they're talking about the grass is growing back where the burn pit was.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Manitowoc law enforcement is disgusting, and I think Wanda means I will be so thrilled to see Kathleen Zona bring them down. Yeah, particularly Ken Kratz.
Well, like I said, Kratz can always make the argument that he was just following the evidence that law enforcement gave him.
Yeah, except that he was the one that was pointing them where to go and what to do. Right, that's going to be tricky. No, what was it? Yeah. I mean, here's the other thing I've just been looking at. Just literally, just when I came back, the trial transcripts, looking at the post-conviction hearings. There was, I think I'm looking at the first one that deals with the question of obviously the defense saying that there has to be a retrial based on the fact that you have got a verdict which makes no sense whatsoever. But obviously that was not the case. That, well, obviously Judge Willis did not eventually rule in their favor. Now, hold on a sec. How would I'll need to look it up, but I'll do that. I'll do that. Kimberly, I've noticed in fact, I would say that I've noticed, apart from the odd guilter that comes along to come up with some rubbish, that all the names that keep cropping up, I'd like to thank you all for adding comments to the various videos. Are they names that you're familiar with? All the names coming up on the side there.
A few of them, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't go live that much, so I see people recognize names from other people's chats.
Yeah. I mean, I think most of us are in I would say, a good number of groups. One of the things I have to do regularly is to try and make sure that I've shared with everybody stuff that I've here we go. Let's do this. Paul Capaldi, who do you and Milbillie, who you think killed Teresa Halbach? Well, I'll let you go first, sir.
Well, I have my suspicions.
Yep.
Just on people's statements, and I can't get my head off of Mike Osmondson.
Yeah.
Yeah, see.
Yep. And his main motive would be because of the fact that Steve seemed to be getting on, was quite friendly towards Marie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And was he not planning on with some of his money, he was going to actually buy her a place of her own?
That's what I heard.
Yep. No, this is something that I do honestly. I do play and hear the calls and check out Milbillie on YouTube and Foul Play. Absolutely.
Yeah. You can hear me more on Foul Play channel than mine. My channel, I pretty much just point out things that don't make sense.
Yes. And whereas in the Foul Play, is that Dr. Silkman?
Yes,
is that Dr. Silkman there? Is he? Yep. And yep, that's good. Now let's see what else have we got. Yeah, I have to agree with this. This is definitely a thought that I think we can all agree with.
Or a new trial.
Yes, as I say, it's how on earth are they going to dig themselves out of this? They had no idea what was going to happen. Well, they must have had some idea when Wiegert was trying to intimidate, wasn't he? It was before Making a Murderer came out, demanding all their like footage of interviews and stuff.
That was Kratz.
Oh, Kratz, sorry, yes, yeah. And yet they pointed out, well, all the stuff that we've got is only the stuff that was there at trial.
Oh, actually,
all the other
that happened before the trial even started.
Mm-hmm.
He tried to subpoena all their interviews they did with the Averys and everybody, saying could potentially have evidence.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they didn't comply.
Yes, I'd love to know Paul's and Milbillie's thoughts. Personally, I've always thought that it's either law enforcement. We have the bizarre case of Ken Peterson talking about the fact that it would be easier to. Well, it was pointed out by Jerry. He says it. Ken Peterson says it would be easier to eliminate Steve than it would be to frame him. And so the interview says, basically wants further clarification. If it was easier to. It would be easier to kill him, and it's just so bizarre that a sheriff of a sheriff department, the head of the sheriff department, would say something like that. And rather interestingly, he pointed out that in rural Wisconsin, in the rural areas, language like that is not so. Frowned upon, if you like, by normal people. They're quite happy with that. But anyway, getting back to the original question, I think it's either law enforcement, I think it's either the sheriff's department, somebody within the sheriff's department, or somebody doing it on behalf of the sheriff's department. I struggle to see this as being an amazingly fortunate coincidence that Teresa Holbrook goes missing and then everybody can frame Steve. You know, to me, that seems very bizarre. We've yet to find out, haven't we, dig into this situation with the previous Auto Trader photographer.
Oh, yeah.
Kathy somebody or other, that was ex-DOJ.
Yep.
We've yet to hear about that. Do you think that there could be things, I certainly do, that we haven't even heard about yet that will be coming forward? But it's a case of Kathleen Zellner has to get this evidentiary hearing. She has to get started before she can then start to really steamroll the state with the other stuff that she's already got.
Mm-hmm.
That's certainly the impression I get, is that we've got so much more to hear about from various witnesses. That at the moment they're just being asked, please just don't go saying anything on particularly social media, because this will come out at a later date. And that's exactly what Jerry said to me, was, he has to be careful what he says, even because of the fact that, he's going to be called forward.
I said the same thing to me.
Yep. Okie dokie. I think we've just about covered everything. Listen, pal, I'm going to let you go and hope that you are soon feeling much better. Keep doing your videos. And if you do ever come across anything that proves that Steve is guilty, I'm sure you'll let everybody know. But out of the hundreds and hundreds that you've done so far, nothing.
No.
Okay. Thanks everybody for tuning in. That's just over the hour, so I really must get to bed now, and get ready for getting up early and sorting out this. We're babysitting this dog. It's quite an elderly dog.
Mm-hmm.
You know how you're familiar with the film The Big Lebowski?
Yeah.
Yeah. Guess what the dog did the other day? Peed on my rug.
Oh.
It's an elderly dog. I never got to the door in time. The dude thought that was hilarious. Anyway, yes. Bye everybody, and we'll catch you all again soon. Thanks very much, Milbillie, and bye for now.
Bye.